everyone. Welcome to Tarot for Today, Divine Dabblings with
Oberon
and Banshee.
This is our inaugural show, so we're just slightly nervous, but bear with us and we'll get going.
You know, technical snafus, just trying to get everything set up and live, cattails hitting the lighting, all kinds of fun things.
You'd
But
almost
anyway,
think that Mercury was still retrograde.
possibly, yes. So, a
What's our
toast
agenda? Yes, a toast indeed.
to our first live stream.
Thank you, everybody
Hoping
who's
for
tuning in.
many more.
What's first?
Well, what is first?
We're going to talk
I think
about
we
ourselves?
should wait a few moments and make sure people are, coming
Okay.
to the live stream so we can banter a bit.
Well, this is Sassy, who may or may not be our assistant today.
If you can see her, she's laying on our board right now. At least she's given us room to lay out the cards. We are grateful for that.
Maybe she's astral projecting.
Maybe not. And so we are here today to start off this live stream on Tarot and Divination. It's going to be educational. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interactive. You'll be able to join us in chat and provide us with some things that we can do online, and involve you in the process. I think we're going to have a good time together. We're going to learn a lot. And we're also going to provide readings to you. Each live stream, we will do a group reading, and we will have some time set aside for anybody who may want questions answered, and we'll do some brief one card, maybe a second card if we need clarification, readings for you.
So I thought on the agenda it said we were going to talk about ourselves first, or what's going
Why,
on?
yes, we are, but I
Okay.
thought maybe we would talk a few moments because we're still giving people time
Okay.
to join our broadcast and be
I
with
guess
us.
I don't have the exact same script, but let's go.
Oftentimes we are not on the same page, but oftentimes we are. So I think you will find this interesting and entertaining. The first thing we will be doing is introducing ourselves and talking a little bit about how we met. We already have some videos out there on YouTube that talk about our experiences with tarot and divination, some of our history, and also why the live stream, why we decided to do this project now. So you might want to check out our videos and find out a little bit more that way. And today we thought we'd talk a little bit about how we came to be as a couple, as partners in crime.
So who starts first?
Well, you can go ahead.
Well,
I've been
okay.
chatting away here, so.
Our bios gave some of our personal information away in terms of how we began with tarot, but briefly, both of us kind of came from families that weren't exactly strictly religious or were quasi-religious and also into this stuff. My family, personally, was not very religious, so nobody cared if we wanted to play with a Ouija board when we were 10 years old. Oh my God, that's so scary and icky. But it's actually the truth. And so I was always exposed to things like the supernatural and occult things. And so finding out about tarot cards was just normal for me. But for you, it was a little bit different.
It was a little bit different because unlike your family, actually, my family was very religious, coming from a Catholic background. And but despite the religiosity, and I will say that some of my family went to church 7 days a week, so that I think is kind of qualifies as uber religious. They also got into tarot, well, they didn't get into tarot, but they got into divination with regular decks of playing cards. They taught me a particular method. My aunts did that, and they also went to psychics and mediums and fortune tellers themselves. So I had a little bit of a different scenario growing up than you did, but we both ended up in the same place. We played with these tools and learned these tools because they were a part of growing up.
And our actual meeting and beginning collaboration was also in print as the paper that I did for my Wayne State folklore class. And so supposedly my paper, which featured my future wife, was archived there. Basically, it was a comparison between her style of reading as I first met her, which was, as she explained, the traditional regular cards, versus a psychic I had met who used tarot cards and who was somewhat prominent in the area for doing his readings. And so it was basically an interview and contrasting their methods. What do you want to say about that?
Well, I also want to just say we have been together for a long time. We met, should I say the year? Should I really say the year? Okay, we met in 1976. So
yes,
that
it was
dates
like
us
the
quite a bit.
celebration of the country. Well, not exactly.
That's
but
1776, and I'm definitely not that old. But yes, it's kind of like that. We met on October. We actually had our first date on October 5, 1976.
But we had met at least by June of 76. And basically what happened was that was around the time I went to work at the particular public library where you were already working.
Yes. And so we met then, and we realized right away we had a little bit in common. Although I didn't read the tarot, I was very interested in the tarot at the time, as I was beginning to branch out and explore more forms of divination.
Right. And because you gravitated, I was eager to show you what I learned. And this is that point where I have to say that you actually have, over the course of our lives, eclipsed me, and you're far more.
Darn you! You stole my thunder. I was
Go
totally.
ahead.
I was totally going to say that
Sing your praises.
that he is the. He was my mentor and my master at tarot, and I, the student, have now surpassed the master.
I am not worthy.
I don't know if
Except
that's true.
I'm one half of this guy here, and we certainly work together as a team, but a lot of our professional life or semi-professional life as readers has mostly been giving scores of readings to various people in various situations. And when I mean scores, I literally mean over our lifetime of reading publicly, semi-publicly, it could certainly be up in the thousands. We used to read at large benefits where maybe in a 3-day weekend we read for several hundred people just at that event alone. And then we had annual gatherings at Lincoln Park neighborhood block clubs where we read for dozens and dozens of people all night long for a Halloween party that the neighborhood block party used to do.
We've, certainly have that background and experience. A lot of it has been volunteerism, or we did it for, for what would you say, for
Charities,
charities. That's
donations,
right, charitable
benefits.
donation. We've also accepted payments, and so we've done a little bit of everything. And as time goes on, we're hoping, we'll be able to offer individual private readings. We're going to have that set up, and sometimes when we do these things, we will definitely do that with charities in mind as well. We're not just only going to take things for our own personal gain, but we will also be doing some things for some charities that are near and dear to us. So that's a little bit about us. Right now, the cat in the picture is our cat Sassy. And Sassy is, sad to say, on a diet right now. So I hope, and this just started. It's funny. It started at the same time as our live stream. So you, our audience, will be able to follow Sassy on her diet journey. And so now you've got a good view of her.
Gee, Banshee, do you think we should give her her own YouTube channel to coexist along with ours? And we'll be doing her progress as a dieting kitty?
Maybe not so much a channel, but perhaps you can look for video updates on our YouTube channel regarding Sassy's journey. And, we do have 3 cats, so sadly, the other 2 cats are kind of dieting by default right now. Maybe some of our audience might have an argument with us someday about whether they're really obese or not. I feel they are not. But they could maybe stand a little tightening up. So we'll just see how that goes, right?
It's always something different with these guys, and the first day of the diet or the first day or so of the diet, it was kind of interesting which ones really liked the food more or not. And then the next day it was literally about the opposite. So it's going to be a little bit of a struggle in the beginning
Oh my
until
gosh. Getting
they're
them to stop eating from the other's dish and all of that because we have to feed them different quantities. It's not fun. And then we have to pick up their dishes, and they're very sad because they used to be free ranging cats that used to eat whenever they wanted to. No more, no more. Sad to say. Oh well. Anyway, enough about the cats. Let's talk some tarot.
right. The kind of things we'll be doing, we're probably going to usually have at least once in the show a reading for the audience, a general reading for everybody. When I perform that reading, it will probably take the form of a 3-card simple reading where we will look at the audience and talk about their physicality, their spirituality, and their mentality. And so it'll be like 3 things that govern the range of you existing as a person. But you, on the other hand,
Well, he kind of gets up there in the clouds sometimes. I think what I'm going to do is, and that's not a bad thing. I'm going to take a little different tact and have a little bit more down to earth 4-card reading, where for the week ahead, I will do a card for your relationships. I'll do a card for your career. I'll do a card for the general aspects of the week ahead. And I'll do a card for money. Something like that, something along those lines. And consider both of our readings weekly spreads. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to have him do one on the Sunday broadcast, and I'm going to do one on the Thursday broadcast. So today we'll be featuring his reading when we do readings for everybody. And after we do group readings, depending on if we have enough people in the chat who are interested, we'll also open it up. If you have any simple questions you want us to draw a card on, we'll be happy to do that for you. And that's totally free, just like our group readings are.
yes, it's all free until we say it isn't.
Hey, Oberon, would you
Yes.
like to just draw a card right now as a general card about the live stream today?
Okay, as in the idea of where are we right now with the live stream. And remember, we are also plugged into things so we can see you, or maybe not. But anyways, I'm just pulling that card.
So if you are watching us right now, feel free to join the chat.
Please do. And I have just pulled the Knight of Cups. It's upright.
Awesome.
And in terms of the live stream, I guess one thing I would like to consider that this means is that it is an affair of the heart, or it is a pursuit of the heart, or heartfelt things that is coming to you. Banshee?
Well, I think that there's a lot of happiness going on right now. And, it's interesting we got the Knight of Cups as we are toasting our first live stream today. I think that the cups is just a lot of water energy, a lot of emotion. And we hope that, the emotions that we generate are good ones.
Sounds good to me. Should I pull another one, or do you want to do one?
No, I don't.
Let's move on to something else then.
Absolutely. So I think I want to start off with a little discussion.
Yes, that sounds like a good idea. What will
Well,
we
maybe.
discuss?
I'm not sure you're going to like this topic. We've
Uh-oh.
had this debate. We'll call it one of our divine debates of late, and it's relating to the cards themselves. There are so many different. Well, maybe we should spend a few minutes talking about this first before I lead into what I'm going to debate about. There are so many different kind of ritualistic behaviors with drawing cards and playing with the cards. I mean, some people have to have them wrapped in silk and they take them apart and they have to
Oh.
shuffle them a certain way.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I have to throw this one there. I really do, because, of
All
course,
right.
old time, it says you can only get tarot cards as a gift for them to work properly. That if you buy them or obtain them yourself through anything less than a gift, I think that's such hooey.
So in other words, you cannot play, you cannot read with a card you buy card deck you buy yourself.
Well, as I mentioned in my bio and elsewhere, I got my first tarot deck when I was 17, and I had to get it for myself because there was nobody in the world who was going to give it to me. And I said, I'm not going to learn them by just thinking somebody should give it to me.
Well, you could hint to someone, I guess. But this all seems kind of corny to me, but that's just it. There's a lot of history and a lot of myths and also just a lot of misconceptions. And, and hey, I'm not going to rain on anybody's parade. If you feel you have to do things a certain way, by all means, do them. I have my own little predilections, as we're about to talk about. But there is no real one true way to work with the cards. I feel the best thing is to do what is comfortable for you. You shouldn't worry about what other people are doing with the cards. You're the reader. You should know how to connect with your own deck. Wouldn't you say?
Pretty much. So let's get to what you're...
Well, so let's talk about this a little bit here. There's all kinds of little rituals and things you do in the beginning. One thing that he taught me early on and that I do like to do and is kind of a ritualistic thing for me is that after I have shuffled the cards a bit and I'm ready to cut them, because you usually cut them into 3 piles, oftentimes you will ask the person you're reading for who is shuffling those cards, are you left-handed or right-handed? And I am right-handed, so I am going to take the cards with my non-dominant hand and then cut them from the left to the left. So now, Oberon, if you are left-handed, you would do it with your right hand to the right?
That is correct. And
Okay.
I was going to say, did anyone ever explain to you, myself or anyone, why we do that?
Yes, you did, but I'm going to let you explain it.
Very good. The idea is that the medium of tarot works really through your subconscious. You subconsciously pick the cards, if you believe that, for your reading. And so the idea is that because the different parts of your brain as well are ruled by right brain or left brain dominance, this is a balancing maneuver. And so that as more conscious thinkers, we're left brain or right brain? I don't remember.
I think, that's logical,
but
right?
we're supposedly using the opposite brain from handedness, from dominant handedness, to create that balance. So in our case, as right-handers, it would be to the left, but a left-hander should properly, in my opinion, be instructed to use their right hand and move them to the right.
So in other words, you're trying to utilize both sides of your brain.
Yes.
So that in the process here. And I think that's I always thought that was very cool and meaningful to me, which is why I do it. Oh, do not touch these cards yet, because now we're going to get into the heart of what I want to talk about.
Uh-oh.
And that is, I have cut the deck from the left to the left, and I am now going to let Oberon pick them up. Do it your normal way, Mr. O.
I guess this is some sort of test.
Do it your normal way, Mr. O.
Normally, I would just put them exactly back from the direction they were cut to the direction they were cut. But I didn't do that, did I? I went left again.
Yeah.
So
you meant
normally
from the
I would
right.
do this
Yes.
way, from the right back towards
That
the
is
right.
correct.
That's
I didn't
what I
mean
would
to,
normally do 99 out of 100 times, except for very recently.
Well, I have another way of doing it, and he questioned me on this and says, why do you pick them up that way? And I'm just like, because I've always picked them up that way. And he says, well, you should be picking up with the bottom on top. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. For some reason, for me, I've always liked to do it this way, and I'm going to show you right now. I take them and I cut them, of course, from the left to the left like that. And so when people do that, what I tend to do is I take it the middle, and then that one, and that. I always take the middle one first. I feel like I want to start in the middle. I don't know why I don't want top or bottom. I feel like I need to go with the middle. And what's wrong with that? Is there anything wrong with that?
It just reminds me of that song from the 80s, Middle of the Road by Chrissy Hine and the Pretenders. But that's my reference. At any rate, it's either balance or it's not. If you believe that it's the subconscious.
Well, yeah, okay, left, right, middle. So since we're trying to utilize both parts of our brain, I figure if I pick it up in the middle first, and I'm taking from the middle first, that there's a balance about that.
I have to retract all this. My producer has just sort of hinted to me that I shouldn't do these obscure pop references.
I
It
am
doesn't matter
actually
how the cards
I
are put
have to
back
tell
together.
you, I just made up that excuse about the middle and the balance when push came to shove here because it's just something I've always done, and they're really. I have no good explanation for it. It's just what I feel comfortable with. And I would say to all of you out there, do what feels comfortable to you. Sometimes you may pick it up a completely different way. You know, for whatever reason, maybe spirit has called upon you to pick up the other pile first. You never know. So, however it happens, just don't sweat bricks over it.
Exactly. And now, before we do anything else, I would just like to remind everybody we are live now. So if you're out there somewhere, please join our chat. Please ask us a question. Please watch. It'd be really fun. All right,
Absolutely.
what shall we do next?
Well, I don't know. What do you want to do? You want to shuffle the cards and draw another one? I want to ask a question. Oh, wait, you know what? Before we even do that, I just want to acknowledge something today. Today is August 4th, and I want to, my aunt has passed away for years now, but actually, my Aunt Mary is somebody who was one of the aunts that got me involved in reading cards and divination. And so I want to wish her a happy birthday. This is her birthday. I miss her and I always think about her. And I think it's very special to me, and it wasn't planned this way for that reason, that we are doing the live stream, our very first live stream on Tarot and Divination today, because I feel like I'm carrying on my family's tradition.
Thank you for sharing that. Your Aunt Mary was, of the many aunts that I got to know, the one I loved the most, the one who was the most comforting to me, and the one who I could have the most capers with on occasion.
My mother came from a family of 10, and so she had 5 sisters and 5 brothers, and all 5 sisters were the ones that would squirrel themselves away in one of their bedrooms and read cards together. And so that's where pretty much my history with divination begins.
And I have nobody like that in my family. I think I have recounted somewhere that my mother, who was more like me in terms of interested in those things, we did some stuff with the Ouija boards that was pretty unique for a 10 or 11-year-old. I still remember those. But we did not work with any active divination like cards. I was exposed to astrology and I read about that, but it was a few years before I started thinking about doing charts. Most of the others in my family that had any more significant interest in esoterics was the great uncles on each side of my family. My mom had a favorite uncle, Uncle Alec, who taught me about auras when I was around 12, things like that. He was very much into Edgar Casey, who was a spiritualist and a psychic medium of sorts back in the 40s and 50s. Then on the other side of my family, my father's favorite uncle, Uncle Henry, he was, I guess I'll have to say it, kind of a reformed gangster type from the 20s or 30s who ended up becoming mystical himself. And he also gave to me a couple of books from a series on mediumship and psychic sciences that he had collected somewhere around that time when he was, I guess, leaving his thug life somewhere circa 1930 or so, right at the end of Prohibition.
Oh dear. Well, I should add too that actually the men in the family, except for maybe okay, 2 of the 3 men in the family were very much into different paranormal topics. I had an uncle who was very much into the ghosts and hauntings. He had a collection of books on ghost stories and haunting stories, real life stories, and I guess that's partially why I'm interested in watching some of these goofy ghost shows on TV today. Aside from the fact that I've actually experienced a haunted house or two in my time, and I had another uncle who was very much into esoteric topics. He was into Edgar Casey, and he had some books that we have in our collection. And also, he gave me my first crystal ball. But I have to say, it wasn't really a crystal ball. It was more like an acrylic ball. But he tried, and I got what he meant there. And he thought that I would be very good at scrying.
Well, that brings up the whole point about how people, use cards or other things such as crystal balls or mirrors for scrying. And so there's that additional question. We just had the question about how to cut the cards, but now we're going to go a little broader and say, is it really the person who has memorized the meanings, or is it something about spurring the intuition? With crystal balls or scrying in mirrors, it is more about seeing an image or trying to see an image and then relating that symbolically or otherwise to something going on. With cards, they can be more of a guide or indicator for an energy, which is why most readings draw several at least, so that you get more pieces to a picture.
Pieces of the puzzle of your question. Yes. Yeah, and I think the cards, we have to remember the tarot cards are a tool. You use some of your psychic intuition or your creative imagination to draw conclusions to what the cards are trying to tell you. And so we hope, through this broadcast that we'll be able to teach you some things about the tarot as well as enlighten you about things that might be going on in your life right now. So we don't want to just make this about the readings. We want to make this about informing you so that maybe you too can engage with us on some of the exercises and fun activities we have planned with the cards for you.
So, with that in mind, let's just go right ahead and do our first reading for the day, our actual reading.
Oh, you really want to do that already? I thought
Go
maybe
ahead.
maybe we would talk about something else first. One of the things that I think people have problems with the tarot is how to read court cards. And court cards can be very difficult because court cards are not just about people. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, I've separated a Rider-Waite deck here so that I have the court cards that I can put out some of them for you. He's showing one right now. Obviously, they're usually traditionally the page, the knight, the queen, and the king of a particular suit. So there is a hierarchy or a pecking order here. But oftentimes, what do they mean and how do you read them? There's a lot of difficulty with this in this day and age because, the tarot cards are very, how should I say this, Eurocentric. And also they're very gender specific, so to speak. So oftentimes some people might feel left out if they're interpreted in the traditional manners. So this can lead to some confusion as far as, reading the cards goes. So when I look at the court cards, I try not to focus so much on physical features and even gender per se as I do the personality of the cards themselves. And the personalities of the cards are based on which suits they are because, right, there's astrological associations and elemental associations with each suit. Would you like to go into the associations a little bit?
Right. I think that as an earlier tarot card reader, I too really went with more of the idea about the physical representation, but also along with it, I did start to sense nearly from the beginning that some of these personality things lined up with some of the general qualities between the signs. So, for example, the Page of Cups was more of a Piscean, a Pisces type individual, somebody who was gentler and poetic and possibly dreamy, but the Queen of Swords, on the other hand, was more of a stern judge of character, and she wasn't unfair, but she was probably critically uh, judgmental. in a certain level. I don't like the word judgmental because I think judges are a good thing, but I guess severe is the word that kind of comes to mind with that. Did you want to say something?
No, no.
Okay, so
Okay, so basically, the reason I'm bringing this up is one of the activities that I have planned is an exercise we're going to do and have dialogue and discussion about. I don't know how many of our viewers are familiar with the journey of the Fool through the tarot, which of course involves the major arcana cards. Do you want to hold up the Fool card for our audience? And the Fool card is at the beginning stages of his journey. And every other card in the major arcana is one step along the journey through his life or through his most recent adventure, because I do believe we go through fool's journeys multiple times throughout our lives, you know, in our career. We could talk about our development, our lifespan as a fool's journey, so many different ways that you can look at a fool's journey. So, what I was thinking here, wouldn't it be fun if we took the court cards and took each one of them through every element of the fool's journey? And I do think that we're going to have a lot of fun and debate about that one. Like, for example, what would you think about the Knight of Cups visiting the Devil card in the major arcana?
I might need to really take some time and reflect on that.
Why, I have an answer. Or perhaps, maybe if he was reversed, it's a better answer. But, you know, the Devil card is kind of about, maybe some addictions, compulsions, obsessions, things that might restrict or bind you, that hold you back. And so, you know, the Knight of Cups, he's kind of a freewheeling sort of guy, very emotional. And, you know, couldn't you see him maybe kind of like an addictive personality when it comes to the Devil card, that, you know, maybe a little bit too much of the spirits or whatever? I kind of thought that would be an interesting place for him to be. He'd have a lot of challenges there.
Well, I can see that, but I could also see it being a more immediate kind of situation where that person or thing that we think is being represented by the Knight of Cups is actually having an encounter with decision in terms of being materialistic or overly drawn to sensual pleasures and things, or not. Mostly the prognosis is being drawn to those, and usually when it's reversed it is. Is that kind of what you said?
Well, you know what? I think what you're showing here is the fact that there's numerous ways to look at these scenarios. And there's maybe no right or wrong way, but there's a number of ways that the Knight of Cups could approach the Devil. And I think it depends on circumstance too as to whether he's upright or reverse, number one. So I think this is great for dialogue and discussion in the future, and I'm sure some of our audience who are more well versed in the tarot, like ourselves, may have their own opinions on this that they'd like to share with us along the way. So this will be a fun and entertaining way to learn more and explore more the court cards as well as the major arcana.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the Fool.
Well, do you want to start this today? I just thought I would introduce the concept,
No,
but I
think
would
we're
be
gonna
happy
just-
to.
We're going to just give more information
Oh, on
about the Fool and
the
his
major
journey.
arcana, yes, and the journey of the Fool.
Should I have maybe a short thing about the Fool?
Go ahead.
This isn't the time for that. Meditation.
Oh, well, you could have said that out loud.
I know.
A meditation is, if you, well, I think that's a great card to start with a meditation on at our first live stream. Absolutely. Because this is the beginning of our fool's journey, which we are being very foolish today. And Sassy says, yes, yes. I want to be, oh, look, I'm getting kitty kisses. She's so sweet. She is my favorite. No, there's no, I have no favorite. They're all my favorite kitties. I love them all equally. Ah. Okay.
Very well. So here's what we're saying here. we're saying is here. Everybody relax. Close your eyes if you wish. I'm going to talk about the Fool and what the Fool represents. The Fool is many things, but he is most likely an adventure about to take place. He is most likely a chance to move forward. And yet still, there's that moment of doubt, or there is that moment of instinct that says, are you sure? We should all be a little bit more like the Fool, ready to take on a fresh new challenge, ready to approach life in an interesting new dynamic, but always somewhat mindful that we still remain tethered to the earth we all walk on, and that we must be aware of all consequences as best as possible. The spirits always forgive true blissful ignorance, but most of us are a little bit beyond that. So keep that in mind as you approach life with a fresh start each and every moment. Thank you.
Should we open our eyes now?
Yes, of course, you may open your eyes. But you didn't have to close them because I said so.
I thought you said you may close your eyes, so I did.
Yes.
Okay, so enough said. I really like that. And if you are not aware of the journey of the Fool, if you put your major arcana cards in order from 0 to 21, you will have the journey of the Fool. And every card after the Fool card is a step in his journey. And that's another good thing as we go along and we take these cards through we take the court cards through the journey of the Fool, you'll become more acclimated with each step of this journey. So that is yet another activity we do have planned for you. I also have something planned that I like to call Tarot Has the Answer. And it's basically, can Tarot answer any question that you throw at it? That is the question. We believe it can.
And in fact, oftentimes I've heard this described from decades ago that in that respect, it's a lot like some people's use of the Bible or other certain books that have lots of statements of various sorts in it, where an answer is so perplexing that you feel the question is so perplexing that you feel you need that answer from some other source, maybe a little bit outside of yourself. So you flip open the book, point your finger, open your eyes and say, oh, it's that scripture. It will help me now. Or that statement, that line of a poem, that tarot card. Some people do that. That's kind of the concept behind the reading for the day that we do on our Facebook page, where every day we pull a card and we read it for the day ahead, and we each weigh in our observations. It's a little bit like that.
Well, thank you for bringing that up because, we're kind of free form today, obviously. So he just mentioned our Facebook page, and it's really great that if you would consider going there and liking the page. It's TFT Tarot for Today at Facebook, and basically go there daily or go there nightly, even better, because, or even in the mornings, because each night we will be drawing what we call Tarot for Tomorrow. And Tarot for Tomorrow is obviously we will be drawing a card the night before for the next day. So it kind of prepares you for what you might be experiencing in the day ahead. And as a matter of fact, I can say last week, on one day, I forget which day it was now, we had drawn the Eight of Wands reversed. And was it reversed? I believe it was reversed, and how you had to focus and channel your energy to get things done. And that next day, that card really held true for me in big ways. I mean, I cannot believe how much energy I spent that day. I was so exhausted when I got back from work, but I got so much done, and it was very focused. I'd be on one task and just focus away and get through, chunk it off, go to the next one, work on it, chunk it off. And that's the kind of day I had. And I realized later, wow, that card really did resonate with me. So, the card that we pull may not always resonate with everybody we're reading for, obviously. Let's say, we get thousands of subscribers someday, which of course we're hoping for. Not everybody is going to necessarily have an Eight of Wands kind of day. So, but it could be helpful to you and it might be your day. So we're asking that you pay attention to it, kind of like you pay attention to your daily horoscope. Sometimes it resonates and sometimes it doesn't.
They say that intention is everything. Certainly it is in most esoteric kind of arts. And so the idea is that our intention is to read the best card possible for the most people possible. Are we always successful? We can't really tell you. All we know is that we're trying to give you a little bit of insight into the day ahead. Sometimes we will also often try to relate it as much as we can with what we know of the moon's passage into the next sign, or what its effects are in the sign that it is currently in. Because there is a lot of astrological associations and symbolism with a number of tarot decks. Certainly the tarot deck that we're mostly going to use live and on camera, the Rider-Waite deck. Any card literally will have other astrological symbols on it. Okay, that one doesn't, but I know I can find one that does. Just give me a moment here.
As he fumbles along, no.
Well,
There we
I
go.
do know that those little leaves or drops that are falling are considered, I believe they're called yads, and they come from the Hebrew cosmology and or relating to the tree of life. There's an equal armed cross in that what looks like either a communion wafer, or maybe it's, some circle that's being held by the dove. These have various kind of meanings. This is not probably the best card, but any number of the cards, like for example, there's all these little cards that have that is representative of Cancer, because we see the little creature crawling out of the water. So that's Cancer. I'm looking for fire sign ones because those ones are almost always very clearly, this has astrological symbols on it. This is the Nine of Pentacles. So I want to keep our
various
focus moving
decks
on.
that are out there, emphasize, the elements more than others, or the astrological associations more than others. So it just depends on the deck that you're working with. But, understanding, there's two ways. Let's talk about that. Actually, there are differences here in the way some people look at the elemental associations with the minor arcana. For example, the wands are generally considered fire, but not always, correct?
In terms of tarot cards?
Yes. Wands and swords?
Yeah, there is some variance on there. I don't think there is a true consensus, but I think that some people think swords are occasionally fire.
And that wands are air.
Right.
And so just to set the record straight on that for you, our viewers, we're going to be doing it the way we've always done it, which is wands are fire and swords are air.
That is correct.
And then, of course, pentacles are earth, and, of course,
Cups
are water.
I think that the thing about tarot card readings is that it is so individualistic that is why there is those opportunities for somebody to say that the Queen of Wands really represents more of the qualities of the Queen of an air element thing. That's fine, because that's the readings that work for them. For us, it might not work that way. I love the Queen of Wands just in and of itself, because this one is kind of have more of the hidden sense of astrology. And of course, the little black cat, I think the coolest description I've ever heard of the little black cat is that it represents the sinister aspect of love. And yet, this card isn't really, to me, greatly about love. The Queen of Wands is more the Empress of some amount of passion, but it might be passion more directed towards her enterprises and projects. Maybe there's something a little bit sneaky about her. I don't always feel that, though. What do you think?
You asking me?
I'm asking everyone.
I know.
But you're here, so go ahead and answer.
Well, I do like the Queen of Wands. She's not necessary, and it's surprising that I don't often gravitate to her because I am a fire sign. I tend to gravitate with the Queen of Cups more, but there's a lot to like about the Queen of Wands because she's got that fire energy, that inspiration, creativity, and
We talked about that with somebody we reread cards for at the event we were at yesterday, didn't
Yes,
we?
we did.
Just a little bit, that whole dichotomy, because although she said clearly she felt she was a fire sign, I think she was Leo, right?
yes, that's correct.
She felt very buoyed and very good about the element of water in her life, and she felt that to some degree it was a marriage for her.
Well, that the Queen of Cups more represented her.
Yes, which is what you
And
just said.
What I and what I told her, because I too am a fire sign, and I told her that I have always gravitated so much to water, and that sometimes I feel that us fire signs, and I don't know if any of you can relate with me out there, that we really do gravitate to water to kind of balance ourselves out. We got a lot of that fiery bursts of energy, and sometimes you need that soothing balance of being surrounded by the element of water. And I told her, and this is kind of also the idea, the concept of fire and water mixed, is what I love more than anything in the world is to just lay back in a hot tub, a hot tub filled with hot water, warm water, and just lay back and let that water surround me, that warm, soothing water. And so there, right there, hot and water, you're combining the fire and water energies.
This was the card I was trying to find earlier, or one like this. The little lizards on the knight's tunic are often called salamanders and are more or less representative of the fire element, because in certain esoteric traditions, that's what they're called. They're salamanders, and they're considered spirits of the fire, or something how related to that. So I think we've been talking about what other symbology and situations come up in the cards that are either helpful to the reader or are good background. And besides astrology, I would have to say that, of course, the concept of numerology
Yes.
to some degree is very important in cards.
Very important.
Did you have something to say further? Or shall I go on?
I was just interjecting. I didn't
Right.
want to
So
stop your flow.
So, for example, just like in traditional cards, all of the suits of the minor arcana, that's the four suits, they start with an ace. And traditionally, the aces are held to be beginnings of things. So if it's a cup, it's a beginning maybe of a really strong, emotional, loving relationship. Or if it's a sword, maybe it's the beginning of some sort of undertaking. Swords also represent the intellect, and so they represent our mind's capacity to forge our will with accomplishments or deeds or projects we're working on. Other cards that are important are any of them. For example, in many
Did you
decks-
mention the pentacles?
No, I just wanted to give
Oh.
a few examples,
Okay.
that's all. You can come to that when you're ready to. I'm looking for, and I can never find it, but 5 cards. 5 cards in almost every deck are considered to be energy cards. They don't necessarily have specific meanings that, well, they do in some cases, but they all have just like the aces all have kind of the connotation of the beginning, fives maybe are more representative of energies that are moved around. So this one here is kind of like an energy that it's semi-hidden. There's three cups fallen, but there's two cups behind, and so the idea is that he's not aware there's still something there, that kind of thing.
I see that Sassy is showing our audience just why she needs a diet. She's showing her nice sized gut. No, she's not on camera. Uh-oh. She is on camera. There she is. Okay, we're seeing part of her gut. Anyway, she's so silly here right now. She's
Which
sprawled across
card
the
would
table.
we use to represent a
Well, Mr.
sassy?
Allen, Mr. Oberon, I'm sorry, you brought up a very good point here, and that is that we should, at some point, maybe go through the minor arcana and take out each of the aces, twos, threes, fours, and compare them and discuss them as a grouping. You know,
think
like
that
the
would be
fives
nice.
and all of that. I believe we will be doing that as well. That's a
Yes.
really good idea that suddenly you have provided me with.
You can actually think of TFT as also a teacher and mentor and supporter of others' efforts to learn cards or to learn nuance with cards. We have literally 88 years of combined experience reading cards.
It just makes me sound so old. I wish you would stop doing that. Stop doing that.
Okay.
We have a lot of years experience with the tarot, and I'm not 90. I'm not. But anyway, I digress.
It's just that we are ageless and eternal. That
Oh,
I feel
I see.
almost as young as when I first started reading tarot cards. Lo, those many years ago.
Yet when I hear you say that, I always feel I should have a cane at my side here or something. Anyway,
We're not ready for that yet.
no, we're not ready for that yet.
What are we ready for?
Well, I don't know. I was thinking that we've been all over the map thus far and not spending a lot of time on anything. So I think it might be a good idea to spend some time discussing divination and fortune telling a little bit and why we're teaching you the tarot as well. I know we're going to have a lot of people eventually watching our live stream, and some of them are going to be very experienced tarot users. Some of them are maybe curious and interested and have just bought their own decks. Some are not interested at all, are just going to be here for the readings and maybe some of the dialogue and discussion, but are more interested in the readings than anything else. And so I have to say, don't feel you have to, always, do your own cards. We read for ourselves all the time, but guess what? I'm always looking for an outside opinion. At the event I went to yesterday, I had a person do a 3-card reading for me. And so I would just suggest to you that sometimes it's good, even for us tarot readers, to get an outside opinion. Sure, I can find out a lot reading for myself, but also there's a big debate out there about reading for yourself. And what are your feelings about that?
Well, I have heard that since the beginning that sometimes it's better or that literally it is advised to not read for yourself. And like some of the other things I've heard that I've talked about here, I consider that kind of rubbish.
But why is that? Why do they say don't read for yourself?
Well, I don't recall if there were specific reasons. I
Okay.
think that they often feel that somehow you're going to taint the reading with what you would rather it be, or you're going to try to rationalize aspects of that. And I think that certainly for a beginning reader, that is a possible pitfall for them. But I think that as you become an experienced reader, the goal really is to dissociate really from the literal meaning of the cards, whether or not you tend to alter them or not, and to literally go with some sort of impetus from a higher realm, that the card symbol doesn't say blah, blah, blah will happen in blah, blah, blah months or whatever, but the card literally makes you think about something. And once again, it's kind of like that one reading we had yesterday. We don't necessarily consider ourselves amazingly psychic, but we are psychic. We use the cards to help us get a handle on what some of that is. And we did a card reading jointly yesterday for somebody, and it was kind of amazing what came up because they were pretty good with keeping their own personal cards close to the vest. They gave us a little bit of encouragement, but then it was after we mentioned a card, they said, "Oh,
It really resonated.
it really
I don't want to
resonated."
get into giving people's private readings,
And
but we
right,
hit
and I'm not going to
something.
do that, but they gave us more information and told us that it was really kind of exciting that that popped out. And I like to think of that as the course of my life's kind of work with reading for people, that sometimes I see something and it could be said to be seen in a broadest or broader sense of that word, but you know when you're hitting somebody because they will tell you, well, such and such did just happen, such and such is my concern, that kind of thing.
Well, back on topic a little bit here. Reading for yourself is basically, well, I think what he's been trying to say is, can a person be honest with themselves? And it's challenging for sure. Let's just say you're doing a relationship reading about somebody you have strong feelings for and you really want that relationship to take off. And of course, when you're looking at certain cards and they might be really negative ones, you're going to try to spin this some other way than it's not going to work out, which would maybe what the cards are trying to tell you. And even if the cards do try to tell you these things, you have to realize, and more than anything, is it pays to be honest with yourself, because if it shows that something is not working out and you see that and you acknowledge that, the tarot is not like destiny. So knowledge is power. So if you get that knowledge that something is not working right, you have the ability to change your fate. That's what knowledge does. Knowledge gives you the tool, gives you the information you need to make changes and adjustments, in your life as you need to. So that is why I think people can read for themselves, but they have to understand that if the message isn't good and if the message is not what you want to hear, you still have to go with it because those are what the cards are trying to tell you.
Very good, Banshee.
And I would also say that, so for sure, anyway, if you're not clear on what you're seeing in your own cards and you're having doubts, obviously, and it's an important issue to you, get a reading, get an outside reading, talk to somebody else. That's what we're here for, and that's what we hope to provide. I know he touched on psychic abilities a little bit and whatnot. We have to remember that the tarot is a tool, and psychic things do come out of psychic sensing is very important with how you look at things. We will draw a card and you may never read that card the same way twice, even if it's in the same position for the same person. Depending on what your intuition is telling you and surrounding cards around it, it is going to change how you look at that card.
I've taken off my glasses.
What does that mean?
I want to get serious for a moment.
Oh, no. You've been kind of serious.
With our captive audience.
All right, go on,
But
proceed.
no, what I wanted to say is that there have been times in the last year or so, maybe even longer, where I haven't felt as good about reading the cards for myself. I have been putting off making decisions or looking at what portents were showing. And then I noticed it never, no matter how bad your day has been, no matter how bad you think your life is, whatever's going on or not going on, you read those cards so faithfully every day, and you read your Lenormand and other decks too, and you get a really good picture. And you read for me, you all ask me if you can read for me, and I usually say yes, and I get wonderful insights. And I guess over all that time, I started to realize that even before we talked about doing this project, which has been for some time, that I really needed to.
Sassy just yawned at you.
Fine, I'll turn the fucking card over then.
This is a clean live broadcast, Mr. O.
Oh. Oh.
What did you draw the
She's
moon?
in the way. Oh, wait, it's not her.
Uh-oh.
She's going to nudge it.
Sassy, don't nudge our likes. No to the lighting.
I have drawn the moon.
Please tell me her butt was not in that shot, Mr. Producer. No, it wasn't. Okay. Thank you.
Talk about too much information.
Oh, dear. All
I've
right.
drawn the moon, and I feel that I drew that personally because that is the idea that the moon also represents a solitude of sorts, that sometimes we're afraid to do certain things. We're afraid to talk about ourselves. We're afraid to look into ourselves. And what I'm just trying to say is that you've kind of brought me back to that point of being able to look at myself. And that ties into this overall topic that you are your own best advisor. You are your own best advocate.
Exactly.
It's just what it is.
Exactly. I mean, if you don't know, and number one, if you plan on reading for other people like we do, if you don't trust yourself to give yourself an honest reading, then how are you going to be honest with others? You have to be honest with you have to be able to be honest with yourself in order to read for others. I think that is step number one with reading for others with the tarot or any form of divination. Is know thyself, be honest with thyself. So,
truth is a hard master.
Oh. Okay, I wouldn't have said it that way, but okay. And that's another point about us in general is we have decidedly different approaches to the tarot. But also, now that we're on this topic about reading for ourselves, I remember when you were training me in the tarot, and I was getting used to reading. We would read for each other. We didn't normally read for ourselves. I remember you would ask me to do readings for you when important things came up, and vice versa. And so,
but it was only a year or two after that. I remember we used to go to my older brother's house, and he would almost always be having some gathering of folks, and we would read for them. And I think I was kind of breaking you a little bit into that, reading for some other people. I remember that was a particularly good reading, a very young, attractive young woman, 20-ish, who wanted her reading. She had long blonde hair. And we were going over the idea of what significator, because I wanted to teach you a little bit about that. The use of the significator, which is another topic that we will be covering here. And a lot of times people pick just a court card, but sometimes they also pick a particular major arcana. Sometimes it's the magician, sometimes it's the high priestess, male and female. Sometimes it's just the fool if we're going to go with a more generic. But I felt drawn to pick this woman, the Sun card. And she laughed and she said, "Everyone calls me Sunshine." And it was just one of those cool synchronistic moments.
Again, that's where, your intuition sometimes comes to play. And so sometimes I feel maybe somebody in this room here doesn't give themselves enough credit for their intuitive abilities. We both would not be doing this if we did not feel intuitive to some degree. And I've talked about it a little bit in one of the videos we produced before, doing this live stream. And we'll probably touch on it again because I like to tell stories. So I'm sure you'll hear a little bit more about our psychic intuitive abilities.
So maybe without further ado, since we are now less than an hour of our first broadcast, we should begin doing some readings?
Yes, I think that might be good, but do you want to do something instead for any kind of topic in the news?
A short reading for a topic in the news.
Yeah.
Do you have a particular idea?
Well, maybe somebody from our audience does. Maybe not. I don't see anything in the chat, but I'll give it a few moments and see.
Well, There's a lot of talk about a very young girl, Greta, who is addressing nations on climate change. Let's just do a general prognosis.
Can you give me some background on that? I don't even know that story. Who
She's
is Greta?
Danish or Norwegian or something like that. I believe she's actually won the Nobel Prize. She's 14, something like that. I keep thinking her name is Greta Thunberg or Thedberg. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank there. But let's just broaden it then to climate change in general and ask, is there really a predominance of people who believe there's a serious problem? How do we want to do that? You don't like that question.
I know there's a lot of people who believe it's a serious
I
problem.
guess I don't want to get too
But why don't we
overtly
talk
political,
about
maybe.
the state of climate change right now, or what could help us change hearts and minds to realize
your
that
question.
climate change is a problem?
I like your
How
question.
about that?
I like your question. And this is going to be a one card?
Yes. And let's just draw general and just see what it says. And this is an example, too, of another issue in tarot that we can have a debate or discussion on sometime, is how to formulate
Do you
questions
want to shuffle?
for readings.
What is the best way to change or illustrate to people to open their hearts and minds to this concept? Are we still shaking the table?
Am I shaking too much with my shuffling, Mr. Producer?
That's probably not.
Okay.
Well, the short answer is probably nothing. Let's party like it's 1999.
It does seem to be a party card for sure. It's making me feel, though, that, people don't realize that a lot of the things that they do contribute to climate change, and a lot of the excesses that we have. I know it's upright, but I'm thinking in this case, the impression that I'm getting from drawing that card for this question is that I think we have to make people realize, when are we in excess? When should we stop? When should we stop with all the? I'm drawing a blank now. This is a tough one.
Well, this card to me maybe
Let's talk about
indicates
this.
more of grasping a different concept, not grasping the concept intended, that it's just been really easy for people to delay their feelings. Go on.
Something popped into my head. I think it's because people are too distracted by good times and the pleasures that they have in life, and they're not willing to give those up to, really enact good climate change policy. How many of us want to carpool? How many of us want to go with less of the luxuries in life or change the ways that we do things in life? It's hard. And so we keep on keeping on, and we're not getting any closer to solving the problem. I apologize for having that momentary lapse there, but this just popped into my head. And that's what I say about the tarot. When you think about the images long enough that you're seeing, these things will start coming to you. How do you feel about that interpretation?
I can't disagree with any of that. Yeah. Do you want to maybe think of one or two sub-questions to pull a card for us?
This is a terrible, scary one, but I'm going to say, is there any hope for the future? And let's just draw the card.
This is very hopeful for the future. This is the King of Cups, and it is in a beneficent opinion. And to me, this seems to indicate that this is the person who will lead us, or this is the kind of quality of a persons or organization who will lead us. Somebody who will be able to show the love show the love for the world, for all life, because all life is going to be affected by this.
Right. And also, he is a man of great empathy. And I feel,
Person,
right?
person, leader.
But yeah, I'm sorry, I did say man. I thought I was going to try to stay away from gender. So it is a leader who's very empathic and realizes that change is necessary for growth. And also that he looks also, because he is a cop, that maybe, because he is she is a leader, that and there's two cups here, that maybe they will be able to manage resources well. And in particular, I'm thinking this person or persons may be involved in protecting water and in the environment, and the issues revolving around clean water.
Now I'm going to frame a question. I'm going to let you pull that card, and
Okay.
we'll put it over here. I'll show it, of course. But my question will be then, with all of this, what will be the biggest obstacle to overcome?
Oh, okay.
The biggest obstacle to overcome. It's the world inverted. Sometimes this is not really necessarily a super bad card. Do you want to go first?
Well, I'm concerned about it in the position it's in, because I think it's really emphasizing the point to me that time is running out. There is a sense here that we are not completing this task yet. We are taking too long to enact measures that would be very helpful to us, because this is a card that's saying a success is not yet won. There are delays, and really, from everything we're hearing from scientific authorities right now, is that there's no time to delay.
We have no time.
We need to get moving now. And I think time is not our ally in this.
But let's hope that our better outcome really, that Greta or somebody like that, somebody who is a masterful person, can inspire and move us ahead.
So shall I pull one that relates to the immediate future, or what does the next
Sure.
few years bring?
Yes.
What? Da, da.
I like it in a way. I mean, I want to go with a literal idea here.
Go ahead.
That this is the overthrow of evil forces, that the Ten of Swords reversed literally represents pulling it back from the jaws of defeat. And that sounds so much like our world. It certainly sounds like America in a way, America, that America. We won't do it.
Okay.
But yes, maybe it's just literally the Hail Mary that we've been waiting for.
Yeah, because the Ten of Swords upright is pretty gloomy, isn't it? Reversed, sometimes some people do not say that's necessarily, the best of all resolutions, but it is a better resolution. I do think that, steps are going to start to be taken. But I guess, and it looks as though, to me, like he said, maybe it's going to take an uprising of some sorts, people finally saying, enough, we have to change it. Whether it's world societies, whether it's people in our own society, we're going to have to make the break, and we're going to have to stand up for this. And maybe change will happen. But I also feel like, will it be too little too late? That remains to be seen. I feel that this is a card that's leaving that part of the question up in the air.
Very good.
And that's just a sample of a very spontaneous way of working with the cards, and asking just a question. If anybody has any questions, whether it's relating to societal things, however, we're not going to get too political here, so this isn't going to be, a shouting match about which politician's better, etc., etc. Although at some point along the way in the next year or two, I personally, and perhaps Oberon, will go out on a limb and try to predict who will be our next president, because I have done that successfully in the past with my cards, with a game we're going to try here, which I will be showing you later today. And it'll be a regular feature on our live broadcasts.
Very good.
So what would we like to do next?
Shall we do our general reading for the audience?
No.
No.
I want to
Okay.
save that for later. We've got plenty of time for that. And besides, I want to wait and see if even more people tune in.
I thought we had an agenda here so we would keep ourselves on target. There
Well,
wasn't?
in a sense, we do. And but this is not the time for that part of the agenda, says the Banshee. Okay.
So then your list will say that we're doing what?
Well, my list kind of went out the window like a few segments back.
Yes, when it literally seemed like you were giving it all away in our first show.
What?
We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're doing this,
Well,
we're doing
don't you
that.
want to tell people what to look forward
Well,
to?
for a minute I thought we were actually going to start doing those things, and it's like, oh, we're not. Okay, that's
No,
cool.
no, we're not doing it all
She's
today.
trying to
Absolutely not.
Titillate the audience.
Exactly, exactly. You know, think like a marketer.
Do you feel titillated?
Or do you feel confused? That is the question.
Do you feel amused?
Amused, confused, irritated,
Bemused.
bemused? Oh my gosh.
Abused? No,
We're not
don't
we're not
say
trying to
that.
form a
Don't
rap
say
here
that.
now. No, we're not doing that. Okay, so how about I introduce what I just spoke about?
Yes.
And I think I was starting this segment with that, but we got taken off on a tangent here. I did. I was. I was saying the tarot can answer almost anything. That's what this is about. This is something that I learned from a tarot author, Mary K. Greer, who's an amazing author, and I will showcase some of her books in future episodes. And she encouraged people learning the tarot to create their very own question deck. And so I like to call my segment based on this question deck, can the tarot answer anything or everything? And yes, I think it can. And I think that, there are many answers to questions that we are posed in life. And, with the tarot card that you draw to answer these questions, you'll see that that card can be interpreted in a number of interesting ways. So basically, you think of some questions. I ended up getting some business card paper from one of the office supply stores, and then I would think of questions, and I wrote questions on all of these cards and created my own question deck. And I just tried to think, broad, general, and just the kind of things that we could have fun with discussing, on the show. And even to myself personally and with other people, if I'm doing tarot workshops and things of that nature. So I'm going to draw a question card at random, and then I'm going to have Oberon spread the cards out and just draw a card at random, and we're going to both see how we feel that card answers the questions. Sometimes we may be in total agreement, or sometimes we may be seeing something completely different in what the answer should be, depending on the card we draw. And the first question that I have is, if at first one cannot succeed, ... what do you do? Let's see what the tarot tells us. Just spread them out on the table because we'll each grab cards, I think, from here. It's a random. Just grab a card. When you're ready, of course.
The Eight of Wands in an upright position. What do I think that means?
What does that mean to you if at first, let's just say, if first you can't succeed,
Fly away, fly far.
Run away?
Run away. They're flying, actually. They're sort of in flight. But I would say that seriously, it really means to keep the energy flowing. If at first you can't succeed, to keep moving towards your target. There is a lot of energy and movement expressed by this card. That's what I think it means. Just keep going. Just keep trying. Keep on keeping on.
well, I would say if at first you can't succeed, there are many other areas where you can spend your energy. Notice there are 8 wands here flying, and maybe it's just telling you that you should apply your energy elsewhere. It's not something that was meant for you, and that you could move forward in a variety of different directions. Is there a right answer? Is there a wrong answer? Or is it just how you feel about the card you've drawn? There's other ways to read this too. It's like he said, you could, maybe another way to look at it is there's so much energy that you're expending on it. If you would just take more time and focus that energy on the element that maybe is holding you back from success, that would work in your favor.
Agreed.
So there's a number of ways that you can do this. Now let's try that same question again and draw another card. And I don't think we have to shuffle each time. Let's just keep them scattered out for this and have at it. Just get your hands on the cards. Yeah, like that. And let's make one big tarot pile here. So I'm going to draw one for this too and see what I get. And it's the Queen of Swords reversed. You want me to start this one?
Yes, please.
Well, I say if at first you don't succeed, don't get bitter about it. And, certainly if there are other people involved, don't lash out at them. Don't be cruel. Don't be judgmental. Try to, maintain balance and composure and accept defeat if that's what's called for. Or, continue trying, but definitely do not become a hard ass about it.
Yeah, I'm drawing a little bit of a blank here, but I do feel that there is some reproach necessary for yourself, that maybe it is a time to really re-examine yourself and decide, were you too stern? Were you too judgmental? Is that what happened? Did you sort of overplay your hand in a way?
Mm-hmm. Right. See? Mm-hmm. Easy peasy. And a great way to learn the tarot, and also just to get your imagination going and your intuitive abilities. What is the image that you're seeing and what you know about the tarot in an upright or reversed position? What is that? Where is that leading you in relation to the question? And so there's many ways that you can answer a question with the cards. Let's draw another question card. One more for today, before we move on to your reading.
Maybe I have another idea now.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, maybe we'll have time for that. Of course we will. Of course we will. I drew the same card. Can you believe that? That's wild. Oh, so here's one. A leap into the unknown can bring...
Am I going to draw first?
I will draw the card. Whew. Well, want to hold that one up? I drew the Eight of Swords upright. And the Eight of Swords, as you can see, is a very evocative card here. We have what looks to be a female figure who is blindfolded and restricted in some way and surrounded by swords. And let me see the card for a moment, please. So basically, now some decks have it a little bit differently than others. Some decks, and correct me if I'm wrong, but don't some decks also show like either the binding that's surrounding her is kind of loose, or even the blindfold, so that if she wanted to, she really could escape what's around here, but
no, you're thinking of a different card.
I am?
Yeah, you are. And
okay.
It's not even this card. It's... well, or that may be possible. I've seen vastly different interpretations.
I'm thinking of the Two of Swords, aren't I?
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you later, maybe.
Okay. Share with me later. Admonish me later for my faux pas.
Do I get to say something?
No, I didn't finish my card interpretation yet. So what I would say about this card, though, is that if a leap into the unknown can bring a pause and indecision and self-doubts. You're not sure, that this leap is a good idea, and you're fearful about where it's taking you.
A leap into the unknown can bring jail time. I'm just going to say it. You did something you shouldn't have done. I don't know.
Oh,
but
dear.
It does...
Are you?
seemed to suggest to me, I was being a little silly, of course, but that there is some sort of attempt at isolation here. That maybe where you leap, you may find yourself isolated and without all of your resources to kind of move ahead or move beyond that.
I very much like that. That sounds good. Let's draw another card, and why don't you draw a card and let's see how that would answer this question. No, not that one. One of these. We're going to do 2 for each.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. I like this one much better.
And, oh,
A leap into the unknown may help you discover some inner strength. That if you're willing to challenge the unknown, you may learn a lot more about yourself and what you are really capable of. And all you need to keep in mind really is that inner strength is not the same as physical strength necessarily.
well, you kind of stole my thunder on that one too, because I have to agree. I was going to say that it really can show you what you are made of, what you are made of. But also, on the other hand, to take that leap into the unknown requires courage. You know, you have to really have the courage to take that leap into the unknown. And also, let me think about this here. There was something else I really wanted to say about this, but I'm probably not going to think about it right now. Sometimes you have a thought and another thought just jumps right in front of it, so I'm going to have to let it go at that.
The
Good
card
choice.
that I thought you were referring to as
Yes.
loosely bound, in this particular deck, the Rider-Waite deck, on the Devil card, it is often noted that the chains that sort of chain them to the Devil are loose enough to where they could cast them off easily. So the idea is that we're not really enchained to materialism unless we want to be.
Okay, I think you're probably right about that one. Thank you.
I had an idea when you started doing
Yes,
that, and I
what?
thought it was interesting. I thought, some early exercises I was aware of when learning how to read cards suggested that you play act with them, that maybe you take 2 or 3 or several out and you sort of put them into some sort of cohesive order that suggests a story or an encounter of some sort. So I'm going to do that just with 3 cards, and we'll try to create a little story with tarot. This is not really a prediction unless, of course, you out there watching say, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I'm going through right now. I don't think that's going to happen.
Careful with the table bouncing.
Sorry, I'm very sorry. Shaky hand, shaky table. So once again, we'll just spread them out. And how about if you pick one?
Let's just lay them out first.
Yes. Whoops.
That's the way you drew it.
That is correct.
Third card or no?
Third card, yes, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, we got 2 people here. This is very interesting, actually. So basically what he drew was the Queen of Wands upright. I drew that, the Queen of Wands upright. He drew the Chariot reversed. And then I drew again the Knight of Cups upright. Well, what does the Chariot reversed symbolize to you?
Not what it usually does, but I'll tell you, I just have an immediate flash. This is a race and somebody wipes out. There's an accident and these 2 people are racing. Maybe it's road rage. Maybe it's saying these 2 people got into a road rage incident.
Oh my goodness, because the Queen of Wands has kind of an aggressive, fiery energy towards her, and the Knight of Cups had, maybe he imbibed a little bit before he took his journey, and so he was a little aggressive, and they got into a major. I won't say it was a major accident, but let's just say they had a fender bender, and now they are bickering over it.
Let's pull that apart a little bit. Let's talk more about her in relationship to motorist A.
Okay. Yes, what can you tell me about motorist A?
A maybe strikes me as being just a little bit high-strung. Maybe she's really focused on her career, and maybe it's a he too, of course.
Maybe she has some place to be.
Maybe she has someplace to be, or maybe she's like every other person I encounter on the freeway, zipping along, changing lanes, not caring about the rest of the traffic flow.
Okay. And so do you have anything to add about him
Well, then motorist
or
B.
her?
B is for beer. He's been chugging it through before he left. I don't know. But I see that quality of perhaps imbibing, as you put it a moment ago. But I also see the idea of them rushing along too.
Yes,
It's
because a
sort of,
knight is charging
yes,
into
the knight
battle.
charges, exactly. So I sort of feel like these are two distinctly different forces that are about
To
meet.
collide? Yes, I think so, because the chariot reversed is, well, it's kind of,
Bad luck with your car.
it could be bad luck with your car, but it's like I won't say a standstill or stalemate, but it could be like that, something that stops you, puts you into a dead stop.
It could be a challenge to authority, and that maybe the concept of road rages itself is that. How dare you do that? I'll show you, what's more authoritarian than that, perhaps.
Yeah, beats me.
Well, so that's an example of maybe playing with the cards to the point of being able to create a narrative that helps you understand personalities, but also the way things might be moving towards an event, or what are those factors involved in an event.
Obviously, when we were just lucky, I mean, we just spread these cards out here. When you have two people and then a scenario card like the chariot come up, that it's easy to create a story. Sometimes it may not be as easy and you'll have to really pull from it a little bit. What if we had three cards from the minor arcana that were not, and none of them were court cards or people cards, and you just had that? We would be coming up with a different type of narrative. But it does get challenging at times, and I think we could have some fun with this.
And this kind of goes back to the idea about what our future talk and detail on court cards will be about, because court cards really are amongst some of the more challenging cards to read, because they are not necessarily activity cards. They are not necessarily telling us such and such happened or such and such did such and such. They're really talking about a kind of personality or an energy perhaps of a person or situation that's going on, but they're not really about events per se.
Sometimes they can be. That's why I say court cards are a tricky business.
Give me an example of a court card that's an event.
An event.
Still waiting.
Oh man, I
It's
hate
okay.
being put on the spot.
But you know what?
But I will get back to you on that one,
Yes, I
Oberon, because
expect
I
that.
know for a fact that you can do them. Court
Well,
cards can not only be events,
You're right.
they can symbolize occupations. They
You're
can
right.
symbolize.
But one event was that sometimes court cards represented particular ones, like I'm thinking of the Page of Wands, represents a message coming to you.
Right.
And that is an activity. That's something you're receiving, something came
Yes.
to you. They emailed it or they put it in snail mail, but it came to you. Some nights represent movement towards a goal.
Exactly.
So that is, in fact,
Exactly.
an event or an activity associated towards an event.
I'm glad you answered my question for me, but I was going to get there eventually.
Did ya?
Honest.
Did ya? We like that cover show. Go on, do it.
No, I'm not going to do it.
Well then,
I don't give any free publicity to
We have
major corporations.
We have BS'd our way through about 3/4 of the program, so it's time to maybe do that reading we've been talking about, or I've been talking about.
Why, yes, it is time for that, I think.
I wish we had a kitty here.
They might come back. Don't worry about it.
well.
Believe me, if you coax them here, they might jump from some horrible location and totally disrupt the table. So
That's
we
why
don't
we
want
have a
that.
producer who will quickly put on the
Pause.
interference.
We'll be back in a moment. Yes.
The sounds you hear are not cats clawing with owners. Okay, we want to do a reading for the day for our audience, and hopefully it'll be such an awesome reading, you're going to come back for more. Which reading are we going to do?
It's your reading today.
Okay, today is my reading. So mine
That's
will
right.
be the kind of airy, fairy, flaky, lakey,
Pie
whatever
in
it
the
is.
sky, spiritual mumbo jumbo that he likes to do, except for the fact
But you
you're
get to
in
comment
luck
too.
because I will also be interpreting his reading and bring it back down to earth just a little.
So I've shuffled them a little bit. I want you to shuffle them a little bit more.
Okay.
And we're thinking of you, our audience, and we're wishing that you enjoyed our show. We are very grateful to have the producing staff we have and to all of the people who have supported us and contributed to our efforts. We really appreciate that, and we hope you will return again. Remember, we will be broadcasting Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. That's Eastern Standard Time. And then we will also broadcast on Sundays from 2 to 4 p.m. like we are right now. That's also Eastern Standard Time.
Do you want me to? You should
Go.
cut them there, you're
Okay.
reading.
But are you going to put the cut back?
No, because you're going to read them.
Okay.
And I will do the same when I do my reading.
Okay, so I mentioned before this is a 3-card reading with the idea from how I'm seeing that as one card represents the physical being or well-being of our audience. The second card is the spiritual realm of our audience at this time, and the third is the mental realm. So we begin. The first card, the physical realm, is the star. The star generally tends to be ominish in particular. It sort of is a presage of good things happening, of fortune, of a sense of destiny, of a sense of things working out. So if I apply that to the realm of our physical being here, I'm suggesting that maybe most of us in our audience are at peace. Their star is at peace, as Captain Marvel used to say. But more than that, most of us are feeling good about our lives at this point of view. We don't necessarily feel there's anything that is telling us something's wrong with our heart or something's wrong with our weight or something like that. We have a positive opinion about ourselves on that level of how we are in our physical realm. Do you want me to finish before you comment?
What do you mean finish? No, I should do each card.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So basically, in the physical realm of things, in your physical material life right now, what I see is that everything is going great right now. You should be getting some good news, some good returns on things that will be bringing you a lot of hope. If there's a project you're working on, you're seeing some rewards or some signs of success right now. Everything is flowing smoothly, and so you should be getting some material benefits. So for example, if you've been working on improving your health, you should be seeing the signs and effects of that right now. If you have been expecting some increase in pay or income or some job offer to come through for you, you should be getting some good news right now or some hope that there will be some good movement in your favor. So that's kind of how I see it.
Thank you. That sounds very good to add a little texture to my comment. Okay, so the second card I said would be about the actual spiritual being or well-being of the individual, of the audience rather. And we have the 8 of Wands upright. I'm sorry, that's the 7 of Wands.
Yeah.
And I'll hold that there for a moment. And the 7 of Wands is usually considered the card of the person who feels they do have an advantage, who feels that somehow they have the ability to work with some demands or challenges against either their authority or against what they feel is their space kind of thing. So in terms of the spiritual realm, I think what this means is that most of our audience, maybe the idea that they're not appropriated by a particular sense of spirituality that might be dogmatic. We could be saying that these are people who, whether they go to church or not or go attend any services, they identify mostly as a spiritual person in control of their lives and not necessarily falling in line with some other spiritual view or religious view that they may be a part of in some form.
I have a very
Different.
interesting take on this. Since it landed in the realm of the spirit, something popped into my head that tells me that what this card is revealing is, if you look, there's the figure, of course, standing above the riffraff or the people trying to gain control over him. That person has the upper ground. I feel that being in the realm of spirit is telling me that maybe there is somebody, some spirit in the spiritual realm, an ally, who is there standing and aiding you and assisting you in your forward progress. That in the realm of spirit, you should count on, those allies and the spirit ally that is closest to you to be your support at this time.
I like that too. So finally, then we move to our third card. And so this is the snapshot or reading for the audience based on the idea of body, spirit, and mind, body, mind, and spirit. However, we went with spirit before mind. So we're going to finish with the mind now. This is our card for the mind. And it is Judgment Reversed. Okay, Judgment Reversed usually indicates... this would actually be a card that would be more at home in the realm of the spirit, but I think that each of the cards did not necessarily seem like a logical or natural fit for their position, so that gives us a little bit of a challenge, which I think we've done pretty well with. The did I waste enough time so I could think of what I wanted to say? No, I'm kidding. But the Judgment...
I think that's what you were doing.
No, that's all right. Judgment Reversed indicates maybe a decline or a feeling that what is there beyond is not necessarily helpful to you or is not necessarily relevant to you. And so this could be saying that on the realm of our audience's mentality or mental state is that they're not necessarily concerned with overthinking those kind of issues, the issues of am I saved or am I going to reincarnate or will I be a ghost? Sarah. Anyway, that's kind of what I'm getting there. I threw you off with that, didn't I?
I don't know why you even went there, but
We know people that like
this
ghosts.
is in the realm of the mental level. And Judgment is an interesting card because there's a certain sense of karma attached to this card. And when I see it reversed, I have to say to our audience, especially anybody who is relating to anything that has been said about this thus far, don't dwell on things that you feel you may have done in the past that might come back to haunt you. In other words, don't let your forward progress be stymied by any guilt, any feelings of inadequacy, any feelings of you don't deserve a positive outcome. That on the mental level is where I see that you're at right now because it is reversed. And so I'm kind of warning you, please don't get yourself stuck there because it can hold you back from achieving success in the week ahead.
Right. I think you brought up a good point with the idea that because this position governs the realm of the mind and how we think or process things,
Yes.
that this could be, because of its meaning, could be talking about not dwelling, not overthinking it, not over processing this kind of stuff, like learning to
And
kind
that's
of...
true too. Go ahead.
Well, I felt you said that, so
Yeah.
I thought you offered that idea.
Well, I was thinking that they might be stuck on some things that happened to them in the past or some things they may have done in the past that could come back to haunt them. But I think what you were saying is a little bit different from that is
It was.
don't overthink the situation. In other words, do what you need to do to achieve the success that's indicated here and don't just get stuck in your own thoughts on it. That's a little bit different. That's more mental. That's good too.
And I sort of feel like it's our first day, and I sort of feel like maybe I want to pull just one more
I was going to say,
card.
maybe, are you saying that this whole thing is talking about us?
Well, we are part of our audience too.
And we do get stuck in our thoughts
Perhaps
sometimes
the
here.
major part of our audience.
I'd say go for it. Pull another card, Mr.
But what would
O.
it mean? What would it clarify or...
Well, this is your
refer to?
reading, so I'm going to leave that decision entirely up to you.
A look at the producer tells me he won't help me here. So
That
that's
is not
okay.
his realm. It is
So
our realm to be the card
when we
presenters.
think about this, then these ideas about these three cards, and there is a body, mind, spirit that we're talking about here. How do we pull that all into one coherent thing? That will be this card.
So is it like an outcome card, perhaps?
It's an outcome for today. It suggests
No, for the week, right?
for the
Yes.
week. It suggests the best way to move forward, understanding the alignment of your characteristics on those levels.
Oh.
Well, that's a very interesting card, I believe. That
I
is
think
the
we might
seven-
deviate on how we're going to interpret this one because I don't know if I look at it the same way you do. But go ahead. I want to
Well,
hear what
the
you have
Seven
to
of
say.
Cups reversed, and we were talking about things that are mental thoughts, our spiritual thoughts, our physicality, and this card always seems to just to me to focus away from a variety of thoughts or from differing thoughts and to try to focus more and also to achieve action. And so I sense that this card says meditate more and find where you should be at, or find how you shall, see yourself operating or enacting.
When the Seven of Cups is upright, there are all these choices you're confronted with and all these sparkly, shiny objects before you. What will you choose? What will you do? Maybe you want it all, and maybe you can't have it all. And so when it's reversed, it speaks to me about focusing and honing your thoughts on one particular area. So what I think this is telling me, if you look at the totality of cards that we have drawn, is that you are going to focus on the things that bring you success. You're going to get some messages from your spirit, from the spirit realm, that will guide you and help you, and you will work through the negativity, some doubts, self-doubts that you may have, to focus in on achieving exactly the goal that you want and the outcome that you want.
So you actually did that better than I might have been able to do that, because you took those things and you kind of pulled them back into a narrative again.
Well, it was an outcome card, so that's what I
Yes.
figured is this is the sum total of the reading. And, if we're doing a 3 or 4 card reading, it's a lot easier to do that with, a longer reading, sometimes you can't totally connect all the dots together the same way, I think.
I agree.
So that's the reading.
Yeah, I think
That's your
our
first reading, and I thought it was pretty good.
Thank you.
So I appreciated that one. And next time on Thursday when we meet again, it will be my reading. And I'm not saying that we're duking it out here and you're picking which reading you like best and any of that. Don't want to hear who's the better tarot reader or anything like that, because we are a team. Wonder Twin Powers, activate! So.
Form of a tarot card.
So anyway, it is now 3:49, and we've got a few minutes left. And so I think on our future show on Thursday, we're definitely planning on doing another reading. Oberon will have a meditation to share with us. I'm just going to ask, if you don't, that's fine, but do you have anything in mind yet for are you going to go through the major arcana for readings, or do you have meditations, or do you have something else in mind?
I think that I'm not sure, because I sort of have a feeling I should try to line that more with describing the general journey of the Fool rather than the exercise you want to do with the card cords doing that.
Okay,
So it may be
right.
possible till I'm really ready to work on that as a series, because that's
Okay.
going to be a series, I believe. And I want to have them more developed. I don't want them to be just a few minutes. I want them to take on a little bit more. I think I will probably do some more like pull of the card meditations, because I think that's good for me to kind of have that challenge, number one, and to grow that way. But I also think that it's like the cards, sometimes it's the right action at the right time, the right timing of that. And so that it may
Okay.
be that the card I'm pulling for the meditation will be what needed to happen. I hope so.
Well, all right, I'll go with that. And also plan on more fun with my question deck. We'll do a little bit more of that. And I think for the next broadcast, I'm actually going to have a product review for you. Not going to say what yet, but when I review things, it's either going to be books or tarot card sets. And let me just say right off the bat that rarely these days do I get anything free from a publisher. Everything that I get, I've either purchased from a store myself or I've purchased online, from the big A, Amazon.com, or something like that. So, and also, I am not going to review everything. I do not want to be here and be, you know, uh, knock down people's creations or tarot decks. If I review something, it's because I feel there may be something of value to you there, or it's something that I bought that I enjoy using. If it's something that I do not like or wouldn't recommend, I'm not even going to talk about it. I mean, I'm not even going to bring it up because it is not my place on this live stream to be bad mouthing people's decks or products. I want to share with you the things that I enjoy, and that is not to say that, if you buy that deck, it's going to be great for you necessarily, but it may give you, it may give you something to think about and just think, is that something that I want to work with? Is that something that could be helpful to me? Is that book or resource useful to where I'm at with the tarot right now? So I think I want to do that and not do any negative kind of stuff on, as far as reviewing goes.
I think those are the kind of questions we want you, our viewers and audience, to send us when you can. That if Banshee or myself is doing a particular review, it's more likely going to be her, at least in the beginning. That is information that you can also ask us more about. You can also look at it on Amazon or some of the other websites that are actually devoted more to decks. Do you want to mention any of those sites just as information for our audience? You used to go
I
to a
think
particular
a
one.
useful site for me, and it's still around, and it's not, of course, you can get reviews on Amazon, you can get reviews everywhere, and, if we all have to take them with a grain of salt these days because you never know what the reviewer's real motivations are. Are they in league with a publisher? Are they, are they doing that? Are they some card producer getting people to write good reviews for them? I can't. We can't judge that. But one site that is very useful to me is called eclectic.net, and that's spelled AECLECTIC. And eclectic.net is a site that I believe is based in Australia. And this site has been around for a long time. And they do product reviews. And not only that, they show a lot of the cards from various decks. So you get to see a lot of card imagery. And it will help you decide if that deck is the right deck for you. They have a lot of other useful information on that site. So I do highly recommend them. They're something that I've gotten a lot of useful information on and that has helped me determine whether I wanted to explore a particular deck or not.
So we're getting in our final minutes here, but I want to ask you, Banshee, do you think that the glass is half full or half empty?
I think it's totally empty looking at your glass, but you know what? Mine is still half full.
There you go. And so that tells you the difference between us. I'm more of a half empty kind of person, and she's more of a half full kind of person.
What he said, I'm not sure what he said, but what he said.
That just means I get to go to the refrigerator and pour myself some more sooner.
Well, and the other thing is, I really would like to thank you for spending time with us today. And if you haven't been able to spend time with us today, I'm not sure if we're going to record this one or not, if it'll be available as a recording. But look to our YouTube channel, for further videos, be it some of our live streams that are recorded or otherwise. I'd like to thank our producer, our son Brandon, for all of his hard work in putting this together. And
that's Mr. Monster Hunter to you.
Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. Pretend you didn't hear that. And it is Mr. Monster Hunter. And, someday I'll get this whole thing right. And thank you for joining us as we muddle along through this and get used to the technology and talking to cameras instead of people face to face. There is a difference. And I think we'll get there. And we hope you'll join us on this journey.
We still have a few more minutes, so I want to
What?
put in more shameless announcements or plugs of some sort. And Mr. Monster Hunter has told me that it probably would be a good idea if I put on our YouTube site, the site that we're broadcasting from now, the video that I made. Well, I've made several now, but one of those videos about our cats as a way of introducing the occasional recurring guest
Characters.
cast in our show. So watch for that. That'll probably be floated over there in a day or two. And if you like cat videos, we can certainly come up with more of those. But we hope that you will like to get tarot readings as well, or to learn more about tarot, discuss more about tarot, and see tarot for today.
Tomorrow. No, Thursday. Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
That will be our next broadcast, so we do hope to see more of you there. Until then.
Don't say live long and prosper. Don't do it. No, don't do it.
That was goofiness.
Okay, I guess that was his silent farewell.